Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you are enjoying your, I don't know what day it is. Don't even know what day. It's like Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. I'm on the way to Oregon right now to do an American Contingency meetup. On the way to do content with Garantham and my buddy Foster, as well as teach a pistol carbine course in Washington State and doing another American Contingency meetup in that area. I'll turn and burn, come back, reset, refit, and then hit the road again to do the same thing in Dallas-Fort Worth at the Triple C Ranch. Look, I want to talk to you guys today about mindset. I've been talking about it frequently, more frequently than I have anything else. And I think we kind of have a misunderstanding and misinterpretations of what mindset is, because it's one of those vague things that we can't clearly define. I mean, if I say to you, have a better mindset, well, what does that really mean? Like, tangibly, how can I implement or execute that in my life? And I just want to talk about a few things that I've done personally to enhance my life. That's not a sales pitch or anything. That has literally changed my life for the better. So, the first thing you have to understand is mindset in preparedness is the overall arching shield of protection. And that shield comes in resilience. I call it an umbrella because it literally shields you from the elements, but provides less exposure to the elements because you're insulated in a good way. You're protected in a good way. And mindset can be learned through experiences and through challenges that you face through adversity. That is no doubt a way to do it. But if you're offensive in your mindset and the way that you approach it, you can actually set yourself up for success, being prepared for the worst case scenario, and then having the right mindset to survive. That offers this benefit to your survivability. I love people who hone in on mindset because I think it's the most neglected element of preparedness. When I was in special operations, for example, we really didn't know what mindset was. We didn't know what resilience was. So we tried different things in little niches that we thought would increase our mindset. What I want to talk to you today about is the things that I've literally done and the things that I think you could literally do to enhance your overall mindset. So the first thing is, resilience is built or compounded when you experience things outside of your comfort zone. But it's not like you think. You don't need to dive into a frozen lake. You don't need to suffer long extended periods of time in order for you to be more prepared and have a more resilient mindset. What you can do is take yourself outside of your pattern. We all live in these patterns of life that afford us efficiency and optimization and comfort. In democracy, right, in freedom, it's no coincidence that we live complacent because of those freedoms. When you're not constantly having to look around corners, stay vigilant, hyper vigilant in some cases because you're afraid of getting robbed, murdered, then you're living more complacent. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. That's just a benefit of survival in a free society that happens to be secure. But it could lend itself to being problematic when you let your guard down in certain instances and you're caught behind the power curve. So how should you live? How should we look at the freedom in which we live? Well, what I want you to do is look at the way that you live your life, specifically to the behavior and patterns that you live every day. You wake up in the morning, for example, at 8 o'clock. You eat breakfast with your family. You do a morning routine, a workout, and then you go to your job. You have to be there by 8, 9 o'clock. You check in, you check out, and then you go home, watch 2 hours of Netflix, and then you go to bed and do it all over again the next day. That's a great life for a lot of people. you work that life and that pattern because you want to get to the weekend, or you want to get to the vacation because you're saving up, and then you can't wait until you get off so you can go explore. And maybe your explore is you go hit the mini mall, you go on a shopping trip, you go and hang out with your buddies and go to a baseball or a football game. That's all good stuff. But all that stuff that you're used to doesn't set you up for success and adapting to adversity and making you have a better and more resilient mindset. What you have to do, and this is one of the things that I've implemented in my life, is do things that you typically wouldn't do. They don't have to be extraordinary, but they need to be outside of your pattern and outside of your comfort zone. I don't mean in the sense that it has to be like this adrenaline-packed adventure. It could be something that you don't necessarily like. Let's say you're not into theater or operas. Well, going to a theater and learning about a different art form and then studying it and then going, believe it or not, will actually help you open your mind to new ideas and not be so conventional in your way of thinking. This rigidity that often people live in because of their patterns makes it more difficult for them to adapt when their pattern is disrupted by change, by catastrophe, by disaster. So you have two forms of stress that I often identify. One is short form and one is long form. The short form has to do with duration. Because when you're in a gunfight defending your life because somebody pointed a gun at you after they asked you for your money, that is a short burst and a short duration of stress that you probably aren't prepared for. Because it's high stress, high intensity. And then there's long form. You have a disease. Your family is stricken with cancer. A family member is stricken with cancer. You know you're going to lose your job. Those kind of things, financial stress, those kind of things are long form. The reason I outline those is because how you respond in long form is a good indication of how you're going to react in high intensity form. Also, stress can be calibrated based off of low grade and high grade. This is kind of the contrast of what I just explained, which low grade is like your significant other finding you heart a text or heart a woman a picture on Instagram. So if she confronts you with that, how do you react? Do you overreact? Do you get emotional? Well, that reaction or overreaction can be correlated to high grade stress, which is that high intensity and how you react. The reason I outline these things is because you can prepare yourself in advance by taking on different things outside of your pattern. The theater, the opera, camping. So many people have never been outdoors and exposed to the elements. Well, that can be disruptive to your physical body and it makes it uncomfortable. But that's a hugely beneficial thing, not only for your physical body and adapting, but also for your level of preparedness and the lessons that you learn outside, living outside of your rucksack or your backpack. And in addition, the physiological and mental benefit you get in adapting by overcoming stress. Essentially, it's overcoming trauma. So let's say you go out and you go camping you've never been before, and you're cold. Well, you can only get so warm, and maybe you didn't prepare. So you suck it up and you drive through it. Maybe it's not even as definitive as being cold. Maybe it's like this low intensity stress, which is like you're not used to not taking a shower or being clean, so you feel kind of uncomfortable. And then you get through that experience and then you realize, man, it's not that big of a deal. So then you become more adaptable and more malleable in the way that you could shape or adapt under stress. And you did that in kind of a low grade environment where you're actually learning about preparedness. You know, you look at the bug out bag that you're carrying and you go, well, wow, I missed a lot and I suffered more than I had to. And next time I go out, I'm going to have the right pieces of equipment. That's just the added benefit. Another way that you could improve the resilience inside of your mindset is by working out physically, because when you challenge yourself physically, you go somewhere in a mental state where you have to push through, or you have to abandon your mentality for the saving of your physical comfort. When we become uncomfortable, we psychologically go through all these processes where we go, hey, something's not right here. This doesn't feel right. Oh, why don't you just stop? Or you're supposed to stop. Or, hey, you got dinner at 5 o'clock, you don't want to be late. And we make excuses. But when you push through mentally, because you say, I'm going to commit, I'm going to be more resilient, you build this resilience, which is like building a layer of callus, which is going to allow you to be more resilient when times get tough. When I trained up in special operations, I routinely did this because I realized that every opportunity that I got to challenge myself physically and overcome was more resilience. And when the time came, and then when the time came, I was actually pleasantly surprised, that it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. It actually was quite easy when you prepare in advance. Those few things are things that I implemented in my life to make myself more resilient on the offensive, not on the defensive. The defensive would be waiting for that worst case scenario, and then it hits you in the face like a ton of bricks, and then you have to challenge yourself. So when you're thinking about this, outline a plan that's going to fit into your life and that is going to challenge yourself, but it doesn't have to be this super stressful thing. It could be something you graduate towards. Like, I have a good friend, Dan. Dan's a real good friend of mine in Texas, a superstar, just a rock star of a human being. But what he does is he goes out and he challenges himself on his own. He just did 3 14,000-foot climbs in one day, 24-hour period, where he covered over 22 miles. That is very challenging physically, but he does that routinely on his own. And this guy's been a Green Beret, been a Ranger, he's a West Point grad, so he's already gone through difficult times in his life. He's just making himself deliberately more resilient, and it does become addictive. It becomes an addictive process where you become highly challenged and highly advanced based on living this lifestyle, which I think is hugely beneficial to live a lifestyle of preparedness. So another thing that you could do that I did that I think is the biggest, I was already living that routine of resilience, but I think the biggest thing that I did that affected me in the most positive way was realizing that I was living around toxic people that brought me down. Toxic people in my life, including ex-girlfriends, including friends, including family, that I allowed to bring me down. The people who routinely are negative, routinely are gossiping and talking bad about other people. I really judge people who talk crap behind people's backs and are two-faced in front of you, because those same people who are smiling and shaking your hand are talking crap behind your back, and that's not integrity, and that's toxic. And that behavior, believe it or not, it's like a cancer. And if you fall into that, which so many people do, you become an extension of that toxicity, and then you might be the toxic person for your small tribe, your small community, friends and family. So, how do you know somebody's toxic? They're super negative. They talk crap about everybody around them, and they're always putting people down, and not trying to lift people up, because they're deflecting their insecurities on everybody else. I talked about that in toxic masculinity, which is a thing. People think it's a leftist term. No, I've seen it. I've seen what toxic masculine men do, and it's the most destructive thing in a family, in a group of other men, and I think it needs to be stopped. So DX those people, which means get rid of all those people who are toxic. Give them the chance to change. Give yourself the chance to change, because maybe you're toxic, but don't compromise your life and your future and your level of resilience and mindset for somebody else's toxic behavior. We do this sum of 5 thing, which is the 5 closest people to you. You are the sum of those 5 people. So if they're good people, empathetic, loyal, trustworthy, you are going to by benefit be the sum of those 5 people. All it takes is one toxic person in that group to make the sum of who you are more toxic and more negative. And it's been hugely beneficial for me because it's something I won't compromise on. If you're toxic even a little, I will shit can you immediately, because I don't have time in this short amount of life to waste it on toxic people. The last thing I want to talk about is the translation of all these things that we talk about in mindset and what you should literally do on a daily basis to improve your overall mindset. So we like to talk a lot about what we can do, but we're less capable of implementing behavioral change. Remember, behavioral change, what we call this behavioral script, is what literally is going to change your life. I always use the analogy of how you wash yourself is something that you were taught as a kid, and you don't have to think about it because you do the same pattern of washing yourself. But if you missed one part of your body, like on your back, for example, that you can't reach, and then you just run that bar of soap over your body and you miss that, you're going to have a landing strip of dirt on your back in a longer period of time. Well, that longer period of time translates in everything that you do in your life negatively. That's why people become obese and they realize, oh my God, how did I get here? Well, you got there because you weren't paying attention on a daily basis in your behavior, and then you accumulated all this weight because you weren't paying attention in the things that you're doing on a daily basis. Your behaviors, which are the actions of how you live your life, are going to directly translate in short periods and long periods of time and good results. Like people say to me, Mike, do you have a successful business? I do. Now I do. 2 years ago, I didn't. And they say, well, how did you get here? Well, I got here because I stuck to the right solutions and the right answers for a long, long period of time. And I was willing to change and adapt when I made mistakes, and I stuck to the discipline of doing the right thing again and again and again. And that is how you become better at navigating the world around you and making yourself more resilient in your mindset. So one example of that is this psychology of implementing negativity or weakness in your mindset. So if you ever say, I'm not good enough, or I feel weak, or I am weak, even if you literally are, even if you believe that at the core of who you are, one, you shouldn't say it out loud. You shouldn't say it inside of your head, because the more you do that, the more you break down your confidence, which leads to broken mindsets, which leads to incompetent behavior. So instead say, I am the best. Hold your head high and have confidence, even if it's telling yourself with understanding that you have weaknesses, that you have incapabilities. Say to yourself, you are the best and you'll get through this. Remain empathetic for yourself as well as those around you. And I promise you that will directly impact your life and your mindset. Guys, I appreciate everything that you guys do for Fieldcraft, for American Contingency. I will do my best every single day to make sure I give you my all and give you the things that I'm implementing in my own life. I just ask that you do the same. Spread the good news, stay positive, and stay alert and stay alive. I promise you, all these things that I talked about will change you if you stick to your guns. Have a good day, guys.